Hey, my name is ShawNshawN, and I sell art on ShawNshawN.co and specials on eBay. Today we're going to review Hobbes and Shaw. So this is basically a continuation of Fast and Furious. They're spinning off a series. So they take two of the more successful characters, which was Hobbs, who is Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, and Shaw, Jason Statham, who was in, I think, one of the Fast and Furious, but he's obviously done his own action sequences and they work well together. You have Idris Elba as Brixton. He's kind of the villain, the super villain. And Vanessa Kirby plays Hattie, who is the sister of Shaw and also a spy herself. So it's basically the story is a CIA operative and an MI6 operative. They have to work together, which is Hobbs and Shaw. They don't like each other. They worked together in the past. They really have this friction. So this is kind of that they're going to use through the film. This rogue spy kills her team off and then is running away with his super virus. And it turns out they capture her, and then Shaw shows up and he finds out, hey, this is my sister. She's not a traitor. And so it turns out she's actually injected the virus right into her hand. And so they have like this time limit, basically 48 or I don't know, 72 hours or something, to get the virus out of her before it opens up and just takes her body and wipes her out, and then she becomes a pathogen for the virus coming to the rest of the planet, right? So their only options really to burn her alive or kill her and burn her, or to get it out of her in this time limit. So it sets this nice time limit frame for the movie. So they break into this organization, Etion, who's this huge secret organization that's kind of trying to, take over the world and save humanity by killing off all the weak with this virus. And so only the superhumans are kind of survive, kind of, basically a light version of Hitler, right? But it's kind of mysterious who's heading the group. Brixton's obviously one of the top agents, but he's kind of just an agent of the organization. It looks like it's run by the AI itself, perhaps. So this is kind of an interesting concept. So I think, my analysis of the story is they took, the easiest actors to work with, Fast and Furious, and just killed off the rest. So they got rid of Vin Diesel, because I know Vin Diesel and Dwayne Johnson don't like to work with another. So that was a real lot of headaches. So this was just the easiest solution to spin it off. Vin Diesel's left with the old series, if they do an 8 or whatever, it doesn't matter. But you just have Dwayne Johnson, Jason Statham is kind of this new version. They're having this banter back and forth between them. The whole series are kind of antagonistic, and then at the end they have to work as a team. That's the only way to survive, so they really kind of bond as a team. So obviously if they do a sequel, they probably won't have this strongest banter because they'll be linked as this team member. On the sideline, they're introducing Ryan Reynolds, who's kind of the help to Hobbs. So obviously probably if they do Hobbs and Shaw 2, they'll obviously have this guy bring him back. They introduce Kevin Hart as a possible team member, who's just really this guy who helps them at the airlines and who's just really amateur, but he might join the team obviously if they do part 2. So he makes a cameo, but really those parts don't really need to be in this film if it was a standalone film, but they kind of introduce him. They're obviously going to introduce him if they do a second part. They introduce his mother, who's Helen Mirren, who's in jail of Shaw. So she was kind of a criminal mastermind and then went to jail. Same with Hobbs. His family, part of the family was also criminally minded, and he broke off to become a cop. So these guys are both cops from a criminal background. So basically playing off the Fast and Furious kind of family connection to crime. Car stunts, I think they had, in the beginning, you have a nice sequence with a motorcycle chase against a McLaren. It had some really nice sequences driving under trucks and, just racing around the city of London. So I think that's pretty fun. I don't know if it's actually believable that they're actually driving it. I think they slowed down and just shot it, so it looks like it's fast. It looks, like they sped it up kind of. They probably drove at 30 instead of 60. But they pretend they're driving fast. So I think they could have shot that maybe better. It doesn't look like they're really in danger. I mean, obviously they can't damage this McLaren because it's this huge, expensive car, right? It's, I don't know, some crazy price, like $1 million or some craziness, right? So there's only a few of them made. So obviously they can't destroy the McLaren, so they can't race them as hard as like the Hondas and the Fast and the Furious. But after all the massive stunt build up through all the different Fast and Furious, no one's going to watch just standard Hondas, right? So they have that, and then the end of the film they have another chase sequence where it's kind of like these custom cars, but they're custom tow trucks versus a helicopter. So that's kind of funny. So that's it's the two basic car chases in there. I wouldn't say it's as good as maybe the Brazilian sequence in Fast and Furious where they rob a bank in Brazil. That was just phenomenal. So yeah, I think it's okay for car stunts. It wasn't as much as the Fast and Furious, so You definitely lose a lot, I think, on that. They definitely have car chases in this, but just not as much. They have a lot of fight sequences. Obviously, you have Jason Statham. He's a kick-ass fighter, so you're definitely going to use him as a fighter, right? A theme, you know, they're bringing up the family theme from Fast and Furious, obviously with this Hobbs and Shaw, so they're kind of continuing that so they can bond and use that to do obviously like 5 or 6 movies, probably, ideally. They might only get 2. They might only get the Hobbs and Shaw 2, and it sucks, but we'll see. So they introduce his mother in prison, who they might break out, so then they'll have this other gangster kind of woman. The mother of Dwayne Johnson, she used to be married to this criminal boss who went to jail. Like, you know, Hobbs actually had to send him to jail, so that's why he was kind of betrayed by his own family. So he reunites with his family, so you have all that Samoan connections. Shaw obviously connects with his sister, and he also has an ex-girlfriend who's a mafia boss in Moscow, so maybe they'll pull that in somehow, who's also a female mafia only. So that's kind of interesting. You know, will it work long term? Who knows? You know, it's obviously the same kind of family heartstrings that they used in Fast and the Furious. I think in Fast and Furious they establish it much more closely. Like, you didn't know they were family, and then it comes out that they're family. So, you know, the relationships are more authentic. They're establishing the relationships here, but you kind of know that they're working off the Fast and Furious formula. If you haven't seen any of the Fast and Furious, I think it works probably better in a way. But I mean, it's not necessary, but you know, it kind of makes more sense, I would say, because I don't think they use the same. Dwayne Johnson, Hobbs is different than in. I think he's different than when he was in Fast and the Furious. They using him, but I think his definition of how he's a cop now is different. And then in the Fast and Furious, he became working with them, so it was kind of like he wasn't a cop anymore. And like, none of this makes sense logically, right? Jason Statham, I think his character makes sense. Overall, it's a fun movie, entertaining. It is what it is. I didn't expect much. I just expect good stunts. The banter and the humor is pretty good. You know, throwing in Kevin Hart is really not necessary, but obviously they're probably going to use him in 2, I would expect. So that's the only reason he's in here. Same with Ryan Reynolds. It really didn't make sense him being in here per se. Like, that wasn't necessary at all to the plot, but it's just they're introducing all the characters that they're probably use in further movies, obviously. Yeah, I think it's kind of fun. I don't think it's super deep. They try to add some characterization with the family connection, obviously, to make a series. I don't know, at this point it's kind of tired. I mean, you know, what they really need to do is really kick-ass stunts like they've done in the Fast and Furious, and I think they did a little bit here. They didn't do fabulous. I think they could have done more as far as playing off that heritage. I mean, you do have Jason Statham as the driver, and you know, they never challenge with Dwayne Johnson being the driver. He just accepts Jason Statham as the driver. So yeah, it kind of would have been interesting if he was a driver as well, and then, but he has never been a driver, and it doesn't, you know, a big meaty guy doesn't make sense to be as a sophisticated driver, while someone that's kind of a normal build like Jason Statham, he's just fit, like kind of a Bruce Lee fit, but he's not this ridiculous muscle-bound Dwayne Johnson kind of look. So Dwayne Johnson just doesn't look like a driver. He looks like a, you know, meathead kind of pound your kind of crush thing, which is the part he plays in the film. So I think that makes sense. Idris Elba, he's obviously a kick-ass actor, so he kind of plays this supervillain, and yeah, I think his role is pretty interesting in the fact that this AI's, you know, obviously they'll probably have him again in the part 2, but you know, the part 2 that's using almost the same plot line, which is like, oh, why would you use the same plot line? Like, this one's the virus, it destroys you on the inside, this one's you destroy you on the outside. You're like, dude, that's such lazy script writing. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it's just been used before, many films, especially Mission Impossible. They've had a lot of viruses like this, but you know, it's a worthwhile thing. But to use it again in your second film, I just think they're kind of setting themselves up for the second film to flop in a way if they use the same plot devices. Maybe not, who knows? I mean, maybe people just go for the car stunt chases, but at the end of the day, it kind of wears out, and I think they might only make it to Hobbs and Shaw 2, but we'll see. Anyway, that's my recommendation. Hope you guys like it. Give me a thumbs up. If you want to subscribe, you can subscribe below. And I'll see you in the next movie review. Thanks for watching, guys.